All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to episode 2 of the Spotfest podcast. I'm your host, Anthony DiUlio, and unfortunately, my co host, Justin Navarro, couldn't be with us tonight. Something came up last minute, but we hope that he can make it next week. So I'll be going in alone tonight. But we got Raw to talk about. And this Raw, being in London, I definitely expected a lot more from it. Well, not a lot more, but definitely more than you would expect for a foreign crowd Raw, especially this one. This is one that I look forward to all the time, every year. And I don't think it lived up to the hype that the last 2 weeks have done. Start with Shane O'Mac being in charge for the third week in a row. I didn't know if he was going to be in charge or not. I actually seen just weeks before, I mean, not weeks before, hours before that, it was breaking news that he was going to host for the third week in a row. And just like many people's reactions, they've just thought, oh, so I guess he did beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. That match didn't even matter. And I seen a comment on one of those videos that were explaining that, and somebody said, well, technically, if you go back to the initial footage, it said that Shane just had to wrestle a match at his place of his time against an opponent of his choosing, not actually win. But I'm pretty sure that's something that the WWE have never thought of in this situation. They're just doing it. I don't know. I mean, I like the fact that the Authority on our TV, but at least put Vince on TV. You got to mix it up. What I thought was Shane was going to do 2 weeks tops, and then Vince was going to take over. And I wouldn't be surprised if they even made two bad Raws on purpose, just to show that it's better off with Shane, and then have like a brand split type of feud. But uh, what I heard about that is that if they did have a draft or brand split once again, that it wouldn't be until around the summertime, so that they had a full roster. They have Cena, Rollins, Orton, Wyatt, Neville, and so on. And maybe even the part timers can be involved, because on SummerSlam time, guys like Brock come back, maybe the Undertaker comes back. I mean, he did twice a year last year instead of just WrestleMania, so that could always happen. And yeah, I guess we'll see with that. But it started off with him the way that I thought it was going to start out, with him coming out, but it was through the Ambrose Asylum that he came out on the show. And there's certain stuff for the night. It was interrupted by Kevin Owens, Jericho, Sami Zayn, and I was hoping that they would kind of mix the opponents for tonight. What I really wanted was just Sami Zayn and Chris Jericho, but I mean, I didn't mind Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens, but that Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens match was very, very good. It was, I don't want to say surprisingly good, but it's just something that I wasn't looking forward to, just because I didn't know that I already seen it before. But the Chris Jericho Sami Zayn match, that was great too. It's like the first match and the last match of the night for like the past 2 weeks. But even on the night after WrestleMania, the Fatal 4-Way main event, that was amazing. There's been some type of talk-worthy match for the past 3 weeks, and whether Shane has some involvement or not, or they're just doing this as like a way to make it look like it's a new era, they're doing a very good job at it, and I am very happy with what they're doing with it. And you have Roman Reigns and AJ Styles, and the possibility of Bullet Club. We seen an interview with AJ Styles in the back. He was interrupted by Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, who showed up last week. I'm going by Luke Gallows, which is WWE's name. And they were reminiscing about Japan and how it's good to see them again. And I was thinking eventually they got to put a group together, but I wasn't thinking if it was going to be Balor Club with Finn Balor, or maybe Bullet Club or something else with AJ Styles again. Um, People are saying like, oh, the last time they were on TV in Japan, they turned on him, but I was in Japan. Nobody remembers that. People, well, not nobody remembers that, but the casual fan watching WWE, it's WWE. Like, they did that in Japan. They're not going to bring their Japan story necessarily over to the WWE, especially since we don't even know if they have the Bullet Club rights name. But later we seen Roman cut a promo, same promo that he's been cutting uh, for the past couple weeks. I knew he was going to do it again. He does this thing where he's like, I'm not a good guy, I'm not a bad guy, I'm the guy. You can believe that. And he just, and so on and so forth. And the crowd boos and boos and boos. And then eventually AJ came out, interrupted him, said some uplifting stuff to get him hyped going into Payback, and then all of a sudden, when Roman wasn't looking, here comes Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, attack him from the back, and when they cut to AJ Styles just walking up the ramp, I either thought like it was like, oh, AJ knew they were coming, and it was kind of like a surprise thing, and he had them like kind of do his dirty business, and he was just like walking up with a straight face and disgust on the ramp. And I was thinking at that point, what it looked like that move was kind of like AJ turning heel, but then of course he turned around and he was saying like, "What'd you do that for?" Like in the back, he didn't know what they were doing there. Roman confronted him about it. He confronted him lying. He was just like, "Oh, those are your boys. You know them. You know that they were going to be out there and do that." And then AJ said that he had nothing to do with it. He could accuse him of being a liar. So what I feel like that's going to lead into is AJ telling off, not necessarily telling off, but telling him, you know, keep it easy. Like, I don't, it's like, I like you guys and everything, but you don't need to be at the ring. You don't need to be involved in my stories and my matches. Not my stories, but you don't need to be involved in my matches, and I don't want a disqualification or something like that to cost the title for me. And then they're gonna be like, all right, pretty much like a we can't have you, nobody can type thing. And then I don't know how I'd feel about Roman Reigns with Anderson and Gallows, but I feel like that's what it could be leading to. But I don't want to jump to any conclusions. That fast, we still got one more week, and we'll see what happens there. I highly doubt that AJ Styles will win the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I just think he's a fill-in almost, and it'll be a very good match. He's every time the crowd is always hot. Every time that he comes out, he gets a great pop. Every time, puts on great matches. Every time. And this match at Payback will be no exception. So I'm really excited for that. But Roman's the guy. He just won it again. And I was talking to Justin about this because I actually did watch Raw with him last night. So even though we can't be here for the podcast, we did watch it together last night at his house. And we were saying, like, this is the third time that Roman's had that title since it's been the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, whether it's the two belts or the one new belt that Brock got the night after SummerSlam, I think it was. And he's been the only person, as far as I know, not just to hold it more than once, but to hold it 3 times. I mean, Seth Rollins, Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Sheamus, they've all held it once. He's held it 3 times since November. That's insane. And I feel like that they're definitely going to keep it on him. I feel like they're going to keep it on him at least until SummerSlam, maybe have Seth come back, something like that. But I'm definitely interested to see where Gallows and Anderson fit in. I was thinking, clearly we know who a third man might be, but I was thinking, like I said, I think last week about the outsiders, how it can easily be like that. They could just like roam around, just kind of beat people up for a little bit, and then not have their first match for like another month. But now that they beat up the Usos, I mean, I was originally thinking like Shield reunion, but Usos, Roman Reigns, family, we're probably going to take on AJ and the Bullet Club at some point. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Next up in the night, we have the tag team tournament. I really like this tag team tournament. The finals, I mean, a casual fan might call it unpredictable, but when I seen Enzo and Cass and the Vaudevillains and they were the potential finalists, I said from the beginning that they were going to be the finalists. I still think the Vaudevillains are going to win. I said since the Vaudevillains debuted on SmackDown, I watched that SmackDown. SmackDown after WrestleMania was a very solid SmackDown. And I was just like, if the League of Nations already lost and they're going to feud with the Wyatt family, and the Dudleys have lost a bunch of times, the Ascension's not legit, there's no heel tag team to take on the New Day. You could have Enzo and Cass, but if the New Day was still heel, that would work. But can't have face versus face, especially with the New Day so hot and right after WrestleMania. So I was thinking, they just started and they just debuted on SmackDown of all places, but you could have the Vaudevillains do it. And especially after the victory against the Dudley Boys, what I think it's going to come down to next week, or actually at Payback, I guess it's going to be now. The Dudley Boys, I think, are going to cost Enzo and Cass, and leading to the Vaudevillains winning in a rematch between Enzo and Cass and the Dudley Boys. But originally what I thought was the finals were going to come next week, and then we'd find out, and then the winner would face New Day at Payback, and then so on. But I thought the Dudleys were going to cross Enzo and Cass next week on Raw, and then we would see the Vaudevillains versus the New Day at Payback, and Enzo and Cass versus the Dudleys. But I think they're putting the number one contenders match at Payback because of what they might go with. Cesaro's already facing the Miz, but what I think they're going to do, just to stall one more month because it's so last minute, is have the New Day versus the League of Nations again. They're in a really hard place right now, between a rock and a hard place. With the Wyatts out, well, Bray Wyatt out, but Luke Harper's also out too, so you can't even have the three remaining members have a 3-on-3 now that they're only a team of three. It's just Rowan and Strowman, who, in my opinion, are the lesser of, they're not the latter of the Wyatt family faction, but yeah, it's a really tough break because Bray Wyatt just turned face. He was getting hot. He looked great in the ring. I was saying last week he looked faster, he looked more fluent, and when he was setting up for the crab walk, everyone went nuts. I think it would be a pretty cool thing. And the first time when we had Roman versus Bray Wyatt, the first time around, it wasn't that good. Roman was typical baby face. Bray Wyatt was Bray Wyatt, but up until that point, he wasn't doing anything, and the feud just went way too long. But this time around, with a face Wyatt and a heel Roman, I think that would be pretty cool. And now that it's for the title, there's a little more involved, so that would be pretty cool. It'll be interesting to see what they do on this last week of build-up going into Raw, and what they do with guys like the New Day and the Tag Team Tournament and the League of Nations going forward. Next up, we got the women's division, and at what I think was the 10 o'clock hour they put it on. It was on one of the top of the hours. I'm pretty sure it was at 10 o'clock when they had the 8 Diva tag with, pretty sure it was Charlotte, Naomi, Tamina, and Summer Rae versus Paige, Sasha Banks, Natalya, and Becky Lynch. First off, I didn't realize it until just a few minutes in, but people were saying, "Where's Emma?" That makes so much sense. Where's Emma? I thought that the second, where's Becky Lynch? Where's Becky Lynch? Where's Sasha Banks? Fit in all this now that Charlotte's feuding with Natalya. But the second Divas feud that they were going with was Becky Lynch versus Emma, and I was actually kind of excited for that. I mean, it's not something that you would think like to get immediately excited for, especially for the women's division. But I think they would put on a very solid match. Those two are both very good wrestlers. They're both good workers, and it may not be the focal point of the Divas division, but at least they'd be getting 2 feuds, 2 matches, 2 spots on the card. I would imagine that with so much going on, it would be on the pre-show. But either way, I think that them two, and I also like the build-up of Emma. I mean, people are talking about like where's Paige? What's happening to Paige? Like, you can't always be on top. Not every diva could be on top or in the spotlight. Like, you got a guy like John Cena who's always somewhere at the top of the card, even if he's not in the main event, even when he was United States champion, he was always most likely the thing that you look forward to the most on Raw. And even in a pay-per-view, like his matches with Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, they were the match of the night every time, every pay-per-view. But yeah, Paige still has her credibility. She's still gonna be right back at the top when they put her back there, but it's just not her time right now. We got Natalya. We'll see how long that goes. We'll see if Bayley eventually fits into play, if Sasha Banks gets back in the picture, who eventually ends up taking the title off of Charlotte. I don't know what the women's main event could be going into like a big pay-per-view like SummerSlam. I don't know. What I talked about with Justin, which a lot of people have been pitching for a while, but I think now is a better time as any. You got the new women's championship. They're being advertised as the women. They're having better matches, longer matches, and more attention put on them. They're being put at the top of the hour. I think at this year's Money in the Bank, just to make it a little more interesting, to have a second Money in the Bank ladder match, but for the women. And originally, I thought the idea was going to be like, if it was a Divas Money in the Bank ladder match, like typical, like maybe like a Vince idea would be like everything's pink, the briefcase is pink, the ladder's pink, so on and so forth. But I don't feel like that would feel right for these women now. But I mean, But the people that are like complaining, like, oh, where's this one on the spot? Where's this one on the card? Where's this one on Raw? Where's this one on SmackDown? They can get their spot where like 7, 8 divas, women, put in a ladder match, and they could fight for what I would like to see would be like a white briefcase with like red lettering, like how the regular Money in the Bank briefcase is gold now. I think for the women it would like match the title with the white briefcase, and the red lettering would be pretty cool. But that's definitely an idea to sit on, and I think it would be a pretty cool idea. Moving on to, we're gonna put a couple in the same area here. We're gonna talk about some more of the NXT guys like Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews. But kind of fitting in with the Apollo Crews match is the news about the social outcasts, or a social outcast, Adam Rose, as well as Ascension member Connor. They both have been suspended. This is each of their second strikes for failing WWE's wellness policy. Now they're suspended 60 days. And I mean, it's not a tough break for WWE because, I mean, Adam Rose is a little more relevant because he's in the social outcast, but they still have 3 more. I mean, they were able to do it without Bo. They could do it without Adam Rose. They weren't really going anywhere anyway. The Ascension haven't been relevant for however long now. At least it's good that, I mean, they were going to lose anyway, but it's good that both of those teams, I guess, are already out of the tag team tournament. I mean, now 3 strikes are out. Both of them could be out, but I hope that they just think about it more next time and hope that they just do the right thing. But going into the Apollo Crews match, it was a typical Apollo Crews match. The thing about his matches is that they come in the very last hour of Raw, or they have been the past couple of weeks, and they've both been against social outcasts. He's taken out every social outcast now, and I don't know what he could possibly do more. But the thing about him that they're not building up right is that you got guys like Enzo and Cass, the Vaudevillains. Not only do they have a character and mic skills, which get them over, but they're in a story. They're both in the tag team tournament. Baron Corbin immediately feuds with Dolph Ziggler. He won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. They're bringing in Apollo Crews in a classic way where he just beats up jobbers and for like a couple of minutes, but there's not much to it. He's a great athlete, but we've barely heard him talk. But that's kind of a good thing because he can't talk. If we did hear him talk, it wouldn't make it any more impressive. But what would make him more relevant is if you put him in something that people could look forward to, because so many people have done the same thing before. They were having Bo Dallas do that. He had an 18 and Bo streak, which I loved back at the time, but that's over. They had Neville. Neville is somebody who they didn't do that to. They could have, because he's got the same thing as Crews. He's got a great build. He's got great athleticism. He could always put on a great match, but he has no mic skills. But immediately they put him on the map. He had a great match with Seth Rollins. I don't think it was it might have been for the title, but either way, it was a great match with Seth Rollins. I think his second Raw. They were putting him against great people like Dolph Ziggler. He was in the King of the Ring tournament. He was Barrett a few times. He was doing good, and then I think it was since Money in the Bank last year that he kind of just dropped off the face of the earth. I didn't think that he was going to win, but I definitely think he was like a top 2 contender. I didn't think that Sheamus was going to win that match, or I thought that if he won, it would just because of shock value, because he was the last person I thought was going to win that match, in all honesty. But with Apollo Crews, I just hope that, I mean, I don't think he'll be like a jobber. I mean, they've done it to like guys like Ezekiel Jackson that are like his size, and they've turned them into jokes. But I think with the soon-to-be guidance of Triple H and how they handle him on the roster, I feel like when I looked at Apollo Crews, I'm just like, this guy can put on some great matches with like the likes of John Cena or Seth Rollins, or maybe if he was lucky, Brock Lesnar. But I don't know. It's like by the time that he comes on TV, people are just worn out. And other than like his moveset, excuse me, there's not much to get that hyped about. He doesn't have any. I mean, even though it could be kind of corny sometimes, he has no like catchphrases, like skills. Like I said, There's just not that much to him to get excited about at 10 something at night in my time. But who I always get excited about, I don't even know why, maybe even more than I did back in NXT, and I watched all of it in NXT, is Baron Corbin. And I love everything that they're doing with Corbin. Me and Justin have a inside joke. Prior to NXT Takeover Dallas, I do have the network. He doesn't, but I didn't watch any of like the build up towards Takeover Dallas, but I did know every match that was going on. I heard prior to that every match that was going on, and I don't know if he did it on NXT, but when he gave the Deep Six to Austin Aries outside the ring at Takeover Dallas, that was the first time I ever heard of the Deep Six, and I'm pretty sure it was a creative finisher move on SmackDown versus Raw once upon a time. I think I remember scrolling through that, but it's just such a weird name for a wrestling move. I mean, it's a pretty good move, but the Deep Six, and it's like you can just, I mean, call us immature, but we can make so many jokes about that. We talk about it all the time, and it's like since Brock Lesnar made Suplex City, everything has its own city now. Blue Pants has Blue Pants City. Asuka has Asuka City, which I'm a fan of that one. Now for Baron Corbin, we call it Deep Six City, and that's where he takes people every time he has a match, including Zack Ryder, Dolph Ziggler, and so on. And I'm excited for this match with Dolph Ziggler if he has it. I hope it's on the Payback card. It most likely will be, but I think they're just doing everything pretty right with Baron Corbin right now. I do think that he'll hold a mid-card title by the end of the year. I mean, he's just got it all. He's got the size, he's got the look, he's got a great move set. He's not the best talker, but he does his job. Eventually, that might turn against him and make him a little stale because he doesn't have that indie background, or except for like NXT. But like he hasn't been around for a decade like some other people have, and he could easily be like a Roman Reigns. So he's a big guy. They like him backstage, but eventually out in the open, they might not like him. But I think he was a very good face when he was down in NXT, and because of that reason, where he eventually just got kind of stale, that they turned him heel, but now they're starting him off heel. And I think it's very easy to turn him face. When I seen the confrontation with him and Kane at the Battle Royal, I was thinking, I like this. Well, when they were kind of both taking on the Social Outcast together, I'm like, Corbin and Kane, I'd buy that tag team. Whether it's a tag team or opponents, I think Kane would be a very good opponent for Corbin some point in the future. But Ziggler, it's a very interesting kind of out of nowhere matchup, but I like them together, and it gives them both something to do, and it keeps them both relevant in their own right. And we got the Intercontinental Championship with The Miz, Cesaro. You include Maurice. Talk a little more about Zack Ryder, because I really want Zack Ryder to succeed. I seen his Wednesday sit-down interview with Michael Cole talking about his past with cancer, how it felt to be at the top of that ladder, hoisting the title at WrestleMania. It was his moment that he finally got, that he deserved. I mean, that's going to stick with him for the rest of his life. And when you think of Zack Ryder, most people went back to 2012 when the Ryder Revolution took off, and that'll always be something up there. But I think when people think of Zack Ryder from now on, they're definitely going to think of that win at WrestleMania and how great it was. And it was. And he did say on SmackDown, and even in that interview, that he knows for sure that one day he'll be champion again. And I hope he is, or at least in the picture, because he jobbed out to Baron Corbin on SmackDown. And the only thing that didn't make it any different than any other match is that he was just Intercontinental Champion days before that, so it made him seem a little more relevant going against Corbin. But we've seen that Zack Ryder before. I personally don't want to see that again. I was in the Ryder Revolution in 2012. Hope I can be in the version in 2016. If Miz goes away, or Cesaro wins, or vice versa, I hope that somehow Zack Ryder can get in the picture. Maybe a triple threat in the future. I don't know. But I hope they don't just keep Ryder off TV and just give him that one moment, just like a congratulations, you deserve it, but now we're just going to move on type thing. But moving on to Cesaro, Miz, and Maurice. I love the fact that Maurice is back. Maurice is fantastic. She looks fantastic. She's probably top 2 favorite divas of all time, just or well, appearance wise, because Maryse is beautiful, but her and the Miz just look so good together. He's had that Hollywood gimmick for some time now, but she just complements it so well, and the way she just makes everything like so precise for him, as if he's just above everybody else. He can't step in the coffee. You have to have a crew member put their jacket down for him just to walk over. He doesn't want any blue M&Ms. He wants imported waters, like all this stuff like that. That's pretty good. That's very good stuff. It's good TV. And then Cesaro, who always kills it in the ring no matter what he does. He is so over right now. There's a Cesaro section somewhere in the arena every time he's there. His new entrance, I like his entrance. I liked his entrance. Now I love his entrance because this week they finally added what was probably the one missing element in his entrance. And not only does he have the suit and the glasses, not only does he come from the other side of the ring and he rips it off, but they put the James Bond tunnel Minitron when he came out. They put the spotlight on him, and they had the tunnel as if he was walking through it, like a James Bond film in the suit, and then he turns and then he rips everything off, and it was just he's arguably the best wrestler overall on the roster, one of the best in the world. Him and Miz, it's a very mid-card match. Miz does his job. He's not a phenomenal wrestler, but he does what he has to do. Not the ideal match that I would want to see first for Cesaro, but if it puts him back on the map, hopefully as Intercontinental Champion, something that I don't think he's never won, something that he definitely deserves, something that would keep him relevant again. So it would be a quick trade of Intercontinental Championships in the past month or two, but I think it would be cool to see him win and then, with the title, and this guy would be champion, and this guy would be over, and it's a weird way to look at it, but maybe there's a loophole and an interesting payoff in all of this, and I guess we'll see it in the coming future. Back to Bray Wyatt. It's such a shame what happened to him. I mean, you really hate to see that happen to a guy. And I thought, like, after WrestleMania, I thought the NG era was over. Maybe a fresh start, fresh guys. At least he wasn't in the main event right now. I mean, it's never good for a guy, especially like Bray Wyatt, of his standard and his level, to get injured. But at least it wasn't one of the main matches. Like, Wyatt family and League of Nations would be cool to see because it's a face Wyatt family now. But it wasn't something that was crucial on the card. So, and I think it would only have been a one and done thing. I don't know how long they could possibly go with the League of Nations. And I don't think the League of Nations could have possibly got a win over the Wyatt family. It wouldn't make it look good whatsoever. So it's a shame that this had to happen. Speedy recovery, hopefully, for Bray. Same thing for Luke. I feel bad for these guys, for Rowan and Strowman as well, as that's all they had. And these guys are going to be in the family for a long time. And I don't think Rowan's ever going to have his solo career again. If he does, I don't know how that's going to play out. Harper can definitely have one. I don't know if because of his age and because they've tried it already, that they already pulled that idea. And if they're just aiming on Strowman as being the future, along with Bray, I guess, as a singles competitor. But I really like the return of the Wyatt family, and I can't wait to see the return of the Wyatt family. And these are the guys that were on the Payback poster. Now there's only 2 of them. Now they got to change it all over again. It's a real shame that had to happen, but I think I've touched on a little bit of everything. Roman Reigns, AJ Styles, Bullet Club, Ambrose and Kevin Owens, Jericho and Sami Zayn, the tag team tournament, the Wyatt family, suspensions, women, NXT guys, Cesaro, Miz. I guess I'll touch a little bit more on the two matches to talk about on Raw before I wrap it up. Chris Jericho and Sami Zayn, that was a match that happened on SmackDown, and I was so excited when I seen that they announced that because I'm just like, what are they doing with SmackDown? Like, they are really making the SmackDowns good and watchable. And it ended off a disqualification because I think Kevin Owens interfered with Sami Zayn, but it was a good match up until that. It was a really good match up until that. And I was hoping that it would, I was thinking, well, because that outcome, it's probably going to be a rematch on Raw. And I almost forgot that that was a rematch off SmackDown when Shane made the match. And it was a very good match. I would like to see them put on even more matches together, excuse me, because I think that they could both do a very good job together. They both have very unique styles that I think mesh very well together. And it did on Monday. It even did on Thursday last week. But the ending is probably the only thing I don't have to critique. It looked like maybe some sort of Chris Jericho versus the Haluva Kick code breaker. It's over, but it's like almost like Sammy stopped in his tracks for no reason for the Haluva Kick. It's like something messed up, something didn't communicate there, and then he gave him the thumb to the eyes, code breaker, but that definitely didn't look right. And then Jericho gets the win. Now move on to the main event. Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose, and I was honestly very tired by then, but of course I was going to watch it. And it went on pretty long. It was a few segments, but everything was good. Like, they pulled out all the stops, each of them. And another two who mesh very well together. They are both very good at what they do. Them together on the mic in the ring, it's just always good. It's just, they said the last match was going to be at the Royal Rumble, so seeing it again will be a little repetitive compared to the last couple of weeks, especially when we've seen fresh matches. But that's just because this match wasn't fresh doesn't mean that it can't be good. And the crowd was into it the whole time. There were spots everywhere from each guy. This is awesome chants. I don't know if it's the booking of the show or if it was just the London crowd or a mix of both. But it definitely wasn't as hot as usual London crowds or international crowds. But they've definitely done a good job this week. They're going in a good direction. I would say the night after WrestleMania, I give that a C plus. Last week it's a B plus, and this one's right in the middle at a C. And we'll see what the Go Home WrestleMania. Not Go Home WrestleMania. Go Home Raw to Payback looks like. What the official card's going to be, and how this all plays out. I'm very excited for it. I hope you all are too. And with that being said, it's a much, much shorter version of the show this week, but I'm all by myself. I don't know what else to tell you. But we definitely hope to have boy Justin back next week for episode 3 of the Spot Fest podcast. And with that being said, I'm Anthony DiUlio, signing off for the Spot Fest podcast. I hope you all have a good night. I hope you all have a good night. Hope you all stay tuned in for the foreseeable future for the show. Make sure to subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed Raw. Maybe some of you will enjoy SmackDown this week. I'm actually, I don't know what's supposed to be this week, but I recommend SmackDown because I've actually watched it pretty much in full the last couple of weeks since WrestleMania, and they've been on point. So go ahead and check it out. All right, everybody have a good night, and we'll see you soon.